Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you drift into a world where frost gleams under moonlight, yet it belongs to a place far from where you stand. The air is still, and you hear the faint hum of your own breath. Imagine the tick of a distant clock, soft and patient, like snow sliding from a ledge. Around you, the scent of cool stone lingers, though no winter is near. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed, because what you're about to explore bends the edges of what seems sensible. So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Cyphoria, only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And if they do, let me know where you're listening from and what time the clock reads for you. Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step carefully onto a trail of ancient rock, where the world tilts upward into peaks that scrape at the clouds. The mountains loom like frozen guardians, holding secrets inside their cold veins. You breathe slowly here. Inhale, feel the faint chill even in your imagination, and exhale into the thin air. Up here, silence is heavy. It presses on your skin, reminding you that these ridges have existed for centuries without caring who comes or goes. In this pale world of glacial light, men once came, wrapped in thick wool and prayers, chipping away at blocks of ice that had slept for ages. The ice cracked with a sound like bones. They lowered each shimmering piece into rough-hewn baskets padded with straw. These were not ordinary men. They were the ice gatherers, a silent brotherhood who believed they were touching the very breath of the gods. Historians still argue whether the practice began as necessity or indulgence. Did people crave cold water simply to survive the inferno of desert cities? Or did the rich invent the need for luxury that could melt away? All pleasure is fleeting, Nietzsche once murmured, and you feel the weight of that now. Because what is ice if not a fleeting pleasure trapped in the skin of time? You pause, letting your shoulders soften. Notice the way your breath slows, and imagine it turning into mist in this imaginary cold. Let the image rest in your chest like a tiny snowflake that will not melt. From these mountains, the journey of ice began, not in silence, but in whispers of awe. Think of it. In a time before glass, before refrigeration, men carried fragile blocks of winter itself. The silk roots, usually buzzing with spice, silk, in the dull shine of coins, now bore caravans that moved in urgency because every hour meant loss. One careless stop in the sun, and the profit would vanish into puddles. There is an old Persian anecdote, barely remembered now, about a caravan leader who dreamed of a lake made of mirrors. He woke convinced it was an omen, and on his final journey, he carried ice wrapped in layers of fine silk, believing it would survive the heat. By the time he arrived, only a story remained, and people still tell it, half amused, half mournful. But here, on the mountain, the ice is eternal. You lean down, run your fingers across its crystalline surface. It hums with quiet strength, the way ancient things do. You could almost believe it remembers each hand that touched it, each city it has cooled, each sip it has blessed. And yet, it waits, waiting to be carried away, to disappear. You know, somewhere below these peaks, the world is burning with heat. Cities gasp under suns that do not forgive. Children dream of cups of water so cold they sting their teeth. The contrast is cruel and beautiful. And the ice, even here, feels like a promise and a threat. Take another breath, inhale through the nose. Feel the air grow lighter, thinner, as if you're climbing higher still. Exhale through your lips slowly, letting the tension sink from your jaw. You are here, yet also there, on the ridge between survival and desire. The men who chipped this ice didn't speak much. They believed words would break the spell. One of them once carved a line into the snow with his knife and whispered, "This is time. It will not wait." Was he a philosopher or just tired? No one knows. And so you stand with them, imagining the labor, the fear, the small hope that their journey would succeed. You see them begin their descent, the baskets heavy with the weight of mountains. The first step is the hardest because they know, once they leave the cold, the race against the sun begins. You linger for a moment, taking in the last pure breath of mountain air, the scent of pine, stone, and distant silence. Already you can feel the heat of the desert below pulling at you, like an unseen tide. And you wonder, can something that melts so easily truly belong to anyone? Or is it always the mountains to keep? You follow the ice carriers down the steep path, feeling the temperature shift in layers. The cold, crisp bite of the mountain air fades into something softer, warmer, almost seductive. Each step takes you away from stillness and into movement, toward a world that craves what these men carry. The baskets on their backs creak like old doors, every block of ice swaddled in straw and wool, sweating slowly into its fate. Below, the caravan route awaits. You can already see the long trail snaking toward the horizon, a vein of trade winding through barren land. Imagine the crunch of boots against gravel, the muted groan of camels burdened with impossible weight. Their hooves stir up dust that clings to everything, a reminder that this journey is not kind. And yet they walk because what they carry is worth more than gold. Here's a strange fact. In some Persian cities, ice was valued like perfume or jewels. A single cup of chilled water could fetch a price that only nobles could afford. At great feasts, shards of mountain ice were dropped into rosewater sherbet, sending a thrill through the room, like winter itself had been invited to the table. You might think this is simple luxury, but in those cities, ice was more than comfort. It was a symbol of power, and historians still argue whether this was necessity or madness. Was ice meant to save lives from heat, or to feed the endless hunger for status? Jung once said, "Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health." Perhaps the difficulty of transporting ice made it sweeter, sharper on the tongue. Or perhaps it was all a mirror, reflecting how fragile our desires truly are. Take a moment now. Let your shoulders loosen. Close your eyes for a second and imagine your breath cooling as it leaves your body. Feel it brush against your lips like a thin, fading breeze. Let that sensation settle, light as snow. The caravan moves carefully, almost reverently. They know every moment counts. There are stories of men who slept too long under the open desert sky, only to wake to empty baskets, just damp straw and regret. In some tales, entire fortunes melted into nothing overnight. One anecdote lingers, unusual yet haunting. A caravan master, exhausted after weeks of travel, refused to stop in a town that begged for ice to save fevered children. He pressed on toward the palace instead, chasing wealth. By the time he reached his destination, half the ice was gone. And in the next town, people whispered that ghosts followed him, their breath icy on his neck. Whether it's true or just a warning spun from guilt, no one knows. You exhale slowly, feeling the heaviness of that choice sink into your chest. Remember Jung's shadow test? How the things we deny in ourselves always return? The caravan master must have felt it, the shadow of his own greed. The silk roots stretch endlessly, like veins of fate carved into the earth. Silk, spices, jewels, and ice, all moving in restless streams. And you sense faintly that this is more than trade. It is a strange ritual, a way of pulling pieces of the impossible into human hands. The men walking beside you are both traders and thieves, stealing cold from the mountain gods, only to watch it vanish before their eyes. Pause again, take a slow breath, Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, imagine the warmth of the desert sun licking at the baskets, daring the ice to surrender. Feel how fragile it is, like holding on to a dream you know will dissolve. Now the desert begins to open before you. Endless waves of gold and amber under a relentless sky. The air here is heavy, humming with heat that presses against the lungs. Even the camels groan quietly, their tongues dry. You can smell the faint sweetness of dates carried by another caravan in the distance. But here the air tastes of dust and patience. And yet, despite the sun, despite the long miles still ahead, the caravan does not stop. Because they know there is a palace waiting, with a fountain carved from marble, where the queen herself will dip her fingers into chilled water and smile. That single moment will make the suffering worthwhile, or at least that's what they tell themselves. Historians argue whether these ice trades were ever truly sustainable. Was it foolish to fight nature, to carry winter into the arms of summer? Or was it a kind of poetry, a fleeting gesture that made people believe they could hold eternity in their hands? What is not eternal, wrote Nietzsche, is eternally forgotten. Perhaps the ice itself knew it would be forgotten, and so it melted without protest. You let your breath settle now, soft and slow. Your jaw relaxes. Even here on the edge of thirst, you find a strange peace. Because this journey is not just about ice, it is about the human ache for what cannot last. As the caravan trudges forward, you begin to see the faint outline of a desert town on the horizon. Its walls shimmer with heat. Somewhere inside, people wait, not knowing if the ice will make it in time. You feel their anticipation, their longing. You also feel the doubt creeping into the caravan steps. Will there be anything left to deliver? And in that moment, you realize this trade was never truly about the ice itself. It was about hope. Hope that something so fleeting could still bring comfort. Hope that the mountains could touch the desert, even if only for a moment. The sun sinks lower, bleeding its light across the dunes. Shadows stretch like fingers, reaching for the caravan. And you keep walking, because there is still a long way to go before the first taste of cool water can be offered. The sun dips, and the desert transforms. The sand no longer glows gold, but deepens into bruised shades of violet and blue. You can feel the air shifting, loosening its fiery grip. Nights in the desert are different. They are not soft. They are sharp, sudden, almost cruel. One moment you are drenched in heat. The next, your bones ache with cold. It is the perfect irony for a journey that carries frozen mountains to burning sands. You stop for a moment and listen. The caravan halts, forming a loose circle. Fires are lit, tiny flickering dots swallowed by the vast dark. You can hear the low murmurs of traders sharing tea. Their voices tired, heavy. They sip slowly, knowing that even this heat, the comfort of a warm drink, is fleeting. Here, let's slip a mainstream fact into this night. The Persians built yakshals, ancient ice houses, deep dome structures that stored ice for months, even in blazing summers. They were feats of quiet engineering, thick clay walls, underground chambers, clever ventilation that whispered to the desert, "Stay out." The ice carried by caravans would sometimes end its journey inside these silent, sacred spaces. To stand before one was to stand before human defiance, a refusal to surrender to heat. Yet beaten, historians still argue how much ice truly survived these trips. Did entire caravans arrive with nothing but puddles? Were these trades exaggerated into legend, romanticized for the sake of storytelling? You will never know for sure, and maybe that's the point. Jung once wrote, "Reality is not always probable." You smile faintly. This trade in ice feels improbable too, an act of stubborn beauty against the logic of nature. Take a deep breath. Feel your lungs fill with cool night air. Hold it for a second. Then exhale, long and slow, letting your shoulders drop. Imagine the same breath coming from the caravan men, each one dreaming silently of home, even as they move farther away from it. The fire crackles. Someone tells an unusual story, half whispered so the darkness won't carry it too far. It's about a boy who stowed away on an ice caravan, hoping to see the palace. He hid among the baskets, curled like a shadow. But when they reached the desert, he couldn't resist breaking a tiny piece of ice and pressing it to his lips. That single act melted more than he expected. The caravan lost just enough weight to arrive short of its promise, and the boy vanished into myth. Some say his ghost still lingers by the yakshals, leaving faint trails of frost on warm nights. You pause. There's something about that story, something fragile and haunting. You feel it settle in your chest like a small shard of ice itself. The night deepens. Stars scatter above you, too bright, almost arrogant in their distance. You notice the camels resting, their long shadows bending like bent reeds. The men lie on their mats, but sleep doesn't come easy. The heat of the day lingers in their bones. You realize that this silence, this waiting, is as much part of the journey as the walking. And in the stillness, you begin to understand another truth. The ice is not just cargo, it is a promise that what is distant can be brought near. A promise that something so fragile can survive if enough care, enough will is poured into it. But isn't that what all human ambition is? A fight against time, against decay, against inevitability. Breathe again. Feel your ribcage expand and soften. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Notice the gentle thud of your heartbeat, steady and calm, like footsteps across soft sand. Somewhere far from this campfire, a queen is waiting. You picture her in a silk pavilion, her fingers adorned with jewels that glint like frozen water. She is waiting for ice, not because she needs it, but because it reminds her she can command even the mountains. She will place a shard in a glass of sweet pomegranate juice and sip slowly, tasting victory and vanity all at once. But you also see the faces of the caravan men who will never taste what they carry. They will unload the baskets, collect their coins, and begin the long trek back to the mountains. Their journey is a loop of sacrifice, a quiet rhythm of effort and erasure. Nietzsche once murmured, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Perhaps their why lies in these quiet exchanges, the dignity of survival, the strange pride of doing the impossible. Or perhaps it's simpler than that. Maybe they just walk because they always have, because stopping would mean becoming nothing more than a shadow on the dunes. The fires burn lower. A cold wind slithers across the sand, stealing the last bits of warmth. You pull your cloak tighter, and so do they. Even in the desert, winter finds a way to follow the ice. When dawn finally bleeds into the sky, you rise with the caravan. The men stretch stiff limbs, their faces unreadable. The camels grunt softly. And you begin again. The sun climbs fast, burning away the night's fragile mercy. The desert heat returns like a predator. This time the road feels heavier. You can almost hear the ice complaining inside the baskets, dripping like slow tears. Each drop is a reminder of time slipping, of promises dissolving. The caravan moves faster now, urgency creeping into every step. Ahead lies the town, and beyond that, the palace. If they arrive too late, the ice will be nothing but memory. Pause one last time. Inhale, exhale. Imagine the weight of melting ice, the way it presses not just on their backs, but on their minds. Feel that duality, the cold they carry and the heat that chases them. As the caravan descends the last stretch of dunes, you see the first signs of life. Palm trees sway gently. Smoke rises from clay ovens. and a line of curious children waits at the gate, eager to glimpse the impossible, a piece of the mountain hidden inside a basket. But even as they draw near, you sense that this journey has only just begun. The true story lies in what will happen when they finally open those baskets and what remains or doesn't. You slip past the town's gate with the caravan, feeling the curious weight of eyes following your every step. The road narrows, lined with clay houses whose walls are pale and sun-baked, their shadows long and sharp. Children dart forward, barefoot and giggling, trying to catch a glimpse of what the baskets hold. They do not yet understand the fragility of what they are about to see. The caravan master raises a hand, a silent command for stillness. He knows this is a performance. Delivering ice from the mountains is more than trade, it is spectacle. Each basket is lowered with reverence, wrapped in layers of straw and wool. The faint, cool breath of the mountains escapes in tiny wisps of vapor, almost invisible in the heat. For a brief, fleeting second, the desert remembers winter. You watch as the baskets are carried toward a courtyard at the palace edge. The queen is waiting there, draped in silks the color of dusk. She reclines on a low couch, her face unreadable, though her eyes hold that glint, the same glint of someone who knows she can command impossibility. Before her stands a wide silver bowl filled with sweet pomegranate juice. She waits patiently for the ice to arrive, not because she needs refreshment, but because this ritual proves her reach extends even into the clouds. Here is your mainstream fact of the moment. Ancient Persian royalty treasured ice so deeply that it was often served during royal feasts to astonish guests. It was a symbol, not just of wealth, but of dominion over nature. To offer ice in the heart of a desert empire was to say, "Even the seasons obey me." But historians still debate how much of this trade was practical and how much was theatrical. Did these caravans really deliver usable ice? Or was it simply a show of power, a half-melted gesture meant to awe rather than serve? Perhaps the queen herself didn't care if it melted before reaching her. Perhaps she simply wanted her people to believe that mountains bent to her will. As you watch the baskets open, a faint shimmer escapes, the last breath of the mountain. Blocks of ice, smaller now, sweat under the desert sun. Servants move quickly, chipping away pieces, dropping them into the queen's bowl. The pomegranate juice cools instantly, tiny droplets condensing on the silver. She lifts it slowly to her lips. Around her, murmurs ripple through the court. Reality is what you choose to honor, you whisper to yourself. Now pause, close your eyes and breathe. Imagine holding a piece of ice in your hand. Feel its edges biting gently against your skin. Notice the cold seeping into your palm, even as it softens, melting just a little. Inhale through your nose, feeling a hint of imagined coolness. Exhale slowly, letting the tension in your shoulders dissolve, like ice surrendering to time. Nearby, a poet steps forward. He recites verses that praise the queen's power, likening her to a goddess who brings snow to the desert. But as his words float into the hot air, you sense a quiet irony. The poet knows this trait is both wondrous and absurd. He sees the futility hidden beneath the pageantry, but he also knows people crave such illusions. Sometimes a melting block of ice can feel more sacred than any eternal stone. An unusual anecdote surfaces in your mind. In one forgotten tale, a nobleman once tried to impress the queen by sending her ice carved into the shape of a swan. It was transported day and night, wrapped in layers of cloth and prayers. By the time it arrived, only a shapeless lump remained. The queen laughed softly and ordered it placed in a fountain. "Even in failure," she said, "there is beauty." That fountain still stands, fed by a trickle of water from the mountains, a quiet echo of a melted swan. You let that story linger, cool and sad like a shadow at noon. A faint breeze drifts through the courtyard, carrying the scent of dates and figs. The queen sips again, slowly. She is savoring more than the drink. She is savoring control. Around her, courtiers whisper praises, their eyes gleaming with awe. But beneath it all lies a deeper truth, one no one dares speak aloud. This ice is temporary, as fleeting as favor, as fragile as trust. Nietzsche's words surface again. All things are subject to interpretation. And here you feel that truth sharpen. Is this caravan a triumph of human ingenuity or a lesson in futility? Are you witnessing power or insecurity disguised as luxury? You notice the caravan men watching from the edge of the courtyard. They are not invited closer. Their faces hold no awe, only quiet exhaustion. They know what it costs to bring this ice. They have walked the sands, felt the mountains on their backs. And yet, when the last piece melts into the queen's drink, they will leave unnoticed, just as they came. Take another breath. Let it be slower this time. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 2, exhale for 6. Feel your heartbeat matching the rhythm of distant camel bells. You are drifting now, halfway between this courtyard and the faint edges of sleep. The queen finishes her drink. She gestures for the remaining ice to be stored in the palace's underground chamber. It will last only a day or two before dissolving completely. Yet this brief, shimmering luxury will be remembered, retold, exaggerated. By the time the story reaches the next town, it will sound like a miracle. And as the court disperses, the caravan men turn away. They have earned their coins, but the weight on their shoulders remains. Soon they will begin the journey back to the mountains, tracing the same path in reverse. They will climb where the air grows thin, where silence feels heavier than stone. And there, they will cut more ice, ready to repeat the impossible. You follow them out of the courtyard, past the gates, back into the rhythm of departure. Behind you, the palace walls gleam in the sun, as if nothing inside ever melts. And so the cycle continues. You leave the city behind with the caravan once more, the taste of its spectacle still lingering like the cool breath of melting ice. The desert stretches out before you, vast and unending, its dunes rippling like frozen waves. The silence here feels different now, less harsh, more reflective. You sense the weight of repetition, the endless cycle of taking ice from the mountains, only to watch it vanish into cups and fountains. The caravan moves slowly, each step deliberate. Camels groan under their loads of empty baskets. The men are quiet, their faces drawn, as if they are carrying not just straw and ropes, but the invisible burden of futility. You notice how their eyes drift toward the horizon, not searching for something new, but simply enduring what is. Here's your grounding historical fact. Along the ancient silk routes, ice was traded not just for luxury, but also for medicine. In certain cities, it was believed to lower fevers, soothe inflamed skin, and preserve rare foods for royal feasts. But the deeper purpose was symbolic. To possess ice meant you could command a season, even bend nature's timeline. And yet, like all luxuries, it dissolved almost as soon as it arrived. A thought creeps into your mind, a scholarly ambiguity that historians still debate. Did the traders themselves believe in the grandeur of their mission? Or did they know all along that this was theater disguised as necessity? Some argue they saw themselves as custodians of a sacred craft. Others believe they were simply survivors, following coins and commands. There are no journals from their lips, no carved confessions in stone. Only the silence of their footsteps remains. You begin to feel the air shift as the caravan ascends once more toward the foothills. The temperature cools slightly, a promise of relief. At night, you stop in a nomadic camp. The people here live between worlds, not fully bound to the desert, not fully tied to the mountains. They share warm tea with you under a sky so wide it seems to spill beyond itself. One elder speaks softly, telling a story about the sleeping spirits of the glaciers. According to legend, the mountains hold frozen memories of the earth, And each time a block of ice is cut, a fragment of the past is disturbed. He warns that too much taken too often can awaken the spirits, bringing storms or silence. You don't know if he's serious or simply weaving a tale for travelers, but his eyes carry a calm that makes you believe, even just a little. Remember, he says with a faint smile, ice is never truly gone. It only changes shape. You let that settle in your mind. Jung once wrote, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos." Perhaps this endless cycle of melting and renewal has its own hidden order. As the fire crackles low, you practice another moment of stillness. Feel your breath in your chest. Inhale deeply, as though drawing in the crisp scent of mountain air. Let it fill the corners of your lungs. Hold it gently, then exhale, imagining that breath turning into a small cloud, like vapor escaping from a melting block of ice. Your shoulders soften. Your mind slows. In the morning, the caravan moves again, climbing higher. The path narrows, edged by steep cliffs where the wind whistles like a distant flute. You pass shrines built from stacked stones, offerings left by travelers asking the mountains for safe passage. Some are centuries old, eroded yet stubbornly standing. Then you arrive at a hidden village where the ice harvesters live. Their homes are carved partly into rock, partly from wood dragged up long ago. The people here move with quiet precision, their lives tuned to the rhythm of freezing and thawing. You watch as they prepare their tools, wooden saws, woven ropes, thick cloths to wrap the ice. There is an unusual anecdote you hear here about a man who once tried to refuse the caravan's demands. He believed the glaciers should not be cut, that the mountain spirits must rest. He locked himself in a cave, fasting, hoping to dissuade the trade. But the ice still went out. His protest melted, just like the blocks themselves. Some say he disappeared into the glacier one night, swallowed by its silent blue. It's hard to tell whether this story is a warning or simply another layer of myth to keep travelers respectful. You watch as the harvesters climb into the glacier's edge. The ice gleams with a faint blue light, almost otherworldly. They cut carefully, shaping blocks the size of small tables, wrapping them in woolen straw. It takes hours, sometimes days, to prepare enough for a single caravan. And even as they work, you can feel the ice resisting, silent but aware. Nietzsche's words echo again, faint and insistent. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. You wonder what the why is for these harvesters. Is it survival? Is it duty? Or perhaps something quieter, a sense that even fleeting acts have meaning simply because they exist. The caravan loads the ice once more. The harvesters wipe sweat from their brows despite the cold air. They know the blocks will leave, melt, and vanish into stories, but still, they will cut again tomorrow. Take another slow breath. Imagine the glacier's air filling you, crisp and pure. As you exhale, feel a small weight lifting, like a block of ice easing from your hands into the earth. Let the rhythm of this journey soften the edges of your thoughts. Now the caravan begins its descent. You glance back at the glacier one last time. It stands silent, ancient, unbothered. Perhaps it knows the truth the queen and her courtiers cannot. No matter how many blocks are taken, the mountain always remains. And as you follow the caravan down the winding path, you realize you've stopped trying to decide whether this trade is triumph or tragedy. Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. Maybe it's just another thread in the tapestry of human longing, fragile yet endlessly repeated. The caravan moves with a slow grace as it descends the mountain trails. The blocks of ice swaddled like fragile children. You walk beside them, feeling the pull of gravity in your calves, sensing the quiet hum of inevitability. Down below, beyond the slopes and the shrines, lies the desert again, waiting, patient as ever, to drink what remains of this frozen treasure. And so you are caught between two worlds, Behind you, the glacier still glows faintly in your memory, like a secret that doesn't need to be told. Ahead of you lies the city of thirst, heat, and illusions. It's strange how the same ice can belong equally to both places, yet feel entirely different in each. Along the way, a trader tells you a story. It's about a single block of ice that once caused a riot. A nobleman in a distant oasis city hoarded it during a blistering summer, locking it away in his courtyard while the common folk collapsed from heat outside his gates. Rumors spread that the ice was enchanted, capable of curing exhaustion and granting visions. When the crowd broke through the gates, they didn't find magic, only a half-melted lump, shrinking into a puddle before their eyes. Some say they left in silence. Others say they destroyed the courtyard out of shame and rage. Historians still argue over whether this riot ever happened or whether it was just an allegory for the futility of desire. Desire, after all, is the thread that ties this whole journey together. Why else would people drag ice across deserts? Why else would they risk storms and thieves, spend fortunes, endure endless sweat, all for something that disappears almost as soon as it's touched? Jung wrote, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And here they are, doing, cutting, wrapping, hauling, turning action into meaning, even if that meaning melts like the ice itself. The sun sets by the time you reach the foothills, painting the sky in bruised pinks and deepening golds. The caravan pauses to rest. You sit quietly, sipping lukewarm water, your mind still wandering through the stories you've heard. Around you, men adjust the straw wrappings, tightening the ropes. Every movement is slow, deliberate, as if acknowledging the inevitability that even the most careful packing cannot stop the creeping warmth. Here you take a breath. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel the night air cool against your skin. Inhale deeply. Imagine it's carrying the faint memory of mountain frost. Hold it gently. Now exhale slowly, like releasing something you didn't know you were holding on to. Your body softens. When the caravan moves again, the path flattens into desert. The stars above are sharp and endless, glinting like fragments of broken ice scattered across the black velvet sky. There is no wind now, only the rhythmic shuffle of camels and the occasional creak of wooden frames. Time stretches, fluid, like melting water flowing into silence. Finally, after days that blur together, you see the city again. The caravan enters through its gates with quiet ceremony. The blocks of ice, reduced but still solid, are carried to their destinations. Noble households, palace courtyards, merchant halls, they all receive their portion. And just like before, the ice begins to fade. You watch as one block is placed in a silver basin in a merchant's home. His children gather around, touching the cold surface with awe, giggling as the water drips onto the marble floor. They don't see the journey behind it. They don't feel the strain of the mountains, the deserts, the harvester's hands. For them, it's just a marvel, something cool on a hot day, a fleeting luxury. There's a clever little joke the caravan leader tells as he wipes sweat from his brow. We're not really selling ice. We're selling the feeling it gives before it vanishes. You smile faintly. Maybe he's right. Maybe that's all any trade is, an exchange of feelings dressed up as goods. And then you realize something subtle, something you felt since the first step of this journey. The ice trade isn't really about ice at all. It's about the yearning it awakens, to hold something rare, to defy the natural order, if only for a moment, to bring a piece of the unreachable into your own hands. The caravan leader shrugs as he counts his coins. The traders unload the empty baskets. Soon they'll leave again, climbing the same path to the same glacier, repeating the same ritual. The cycle never stops. Like the mountains, like the deserts, like the endless loop of human want. You linger a little longer in the city, watching the last slivers of ice disappear into bowls and cups. You imagine the mountains again, silent and patient. Perhaps they know a truth humans cannot, that all things are borrowed, even the cold. Take one last deep breath. Feel the air fill your chest. Exhale, letting it settle like the final drop of melted ice slipping into the earth. And as you drift further into this thought, you understand the quiet beauty of impermanence. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is truly gone. It only changes shape, moving from glacier to caravan to cup to memory, like the soft arc of a dream. The desert grows quiet, the city lights dim, and you, standing in the space between mountains and sands, between longing and release, feel yourself soften into stillness. You lie back now, feeling the cool shadow of the mountains still lingering on your skin. Even as the warmth of the desert tries to claim it, imagine the glacier, silent, glowing blue in the moonlight, its surface unbroken, its depths holding stories older than cities, older than caravans, older even than memory itself. Let your breath slow. Inhale gently, feeling the air touch the back of your throat. Exhale, long and steady, like a quiet stream slipping free of ice. You picture the caravan, small figures moving through an endless landscape. They are part of a rhythm that doesn't need to end. The same footsteps, the same creaking baskets, the same fleeting marvel of a cold block in a hot hand. Nothing in it lasts, yet everything belongs. Now let that thought expand. Let it reach into your own life. The things you've chased, the things you've held, the things you've lost, they were all ice. Beautiful, temporary, necessary. And like the mountains, you remain watching. Feel the weight of your body sinking deeper into rest. Notice the quiet hum around you, the soft rhythm of your own heartbeat. The story has melted now, like the final trickle of a thawing glacier, leaving only calm behind. You are still. You are safe. You are exactly where you need to be.